And welcome back. We're picking up where we left off last time in Strategic Command World War I, Cold Arms Campaign. We left off in the middle of sort of finishing up our second turn as the Central Powers here. One thing I need to remember to do before we forget is we need to continue marching our troops around the Ottoman Empire. They're not joining the war yet. They're leaning towards the Axis 39%. One of the things we do want to do is we want to try to get their corps that were on their western side deployed to the Russian border so that we have troops ready to deal with the Russians. Whereas I'm moving moving 3 of their detachments to basically take up the position where their corps were. We obviously want to hold the capital. The AI probably isn't going to pull any cheeky stuff and try to land the capital. We want to hold Gallipoli. Again, the AI probably isn't going to pull any cheeky stuff to invade Gallipoli. And then later on, we will probably have Bulgaria joining the war. And we're probably going to send the last detachment actually to help defend Bulgaria. Defense-wise, these guys are all either properly entrenched or don't have the action points to entrench. We did do some realignment, so I think... Oops. Most of these guys have existing trenches, with the exception of this guy in the place we just drove the Serbians out of. Basically, in this early portion of the war, we're mainly going to be in Serbia trying to attack 3-directionally into an area. So this will probably be the next place we attack. We're going to probably recon it and attack from the 3 local places, so on and so forth. This force isn't reinforced. We'll probably have this guy run him down. Here in the east, we've reinforced the cavalry. Unlike the first game where we had recording issues, the first attempt where we had recording issues, the cavalry has actually survived the fall of Ternopil. So in this case, we were able to reinforce it instead of have to build it from scratch, or replace it from scratch. We do now have a little bit better defensive position in the glacial and oil fields, as the Army Corps here has had time to dig in properly, as well as we managed to bring it in the reinforcement to protect this on the flank. This is probably good enough that the Russians probably will not overrun that position, hopefully. Although the Russians will probably still keep coming at us, and we will probably still take damage here. Let's go through and take one last look at our technologies. We queued up trench warfare as the Austro-Hungarians. I think that's still a fairly good plan. We got 62 MPP. Do you want to use that reinforcing units, or do I want to use that on technology? Don't want to leave it sitting around is kind of where we're at. Boats. I could use it on increasing the battleship there. I'm not too worried about increasing the battleships. We're probably not going to use the battleships anytime soon. Reinforce this up. Okay. In which case... actually, no. We'll save it up so we can spend it on infantry weapons the future turn. As the Germans, we've done infantry weapon. We queued up infantry weapons in trench warfare. I may want to grab gas shell production. Let's look around to see if there's any reinforcement we want to do before we do that. So we're able to, because you were, well, these guys are all veterans, so we can go and do elite reinforcement on these. On the other hand, they're entrenched in a position where I don't think the Russians are going to really harm them, so we're not going to bother. Not going to do the airplanes, not going to do battleships and stuff like that. And then, yeah, nothing to do over here. Unless I wanted to elite reinforce that infantry. Okay. And then purchase-wise, we haven't lost anything yet. And I don't think it's time to rush to deploy more detachments. Yeah, let's get gas shell production underway. So gas shell production adds +1 to the shells the artillery units make every turn. By default, they make 1. Oh wait, I don't have an Austrian-Hungarian one to show off. By default, they hold 1, or they make 1 per turn. And they can hold up to 5. You'll notice the German one there can hold 7. That's because the Germans start with 2 levels of logistics completed. 1 level of naval warfare, which is why the Germans are able to put down 3 mines. and a couple levels into infantry warfare and command and control. This is one reason why the German infantry fights a little bit better than the Austrians. The Austrians have far fewer techs with no levels in anything to start with, although they do start with industry going and artillery weapons. And then the Ottomans are the same. They got no techs initially, although they're starting command and control, which will give a little bit better supply bonuses from their army commands when their army commands deploy. Okay, I got 40 MPP. Do I want? No, I'm gonna still resist the urge to make elite formations down there. Okay, let's cycle the turn. Germany celebrates the capture of Brussels. So we took Brussels over. So we got 2 more Belgian cities to take over. Brussels is also the capital, so we forced them to move their capital to Antwerp. Chief of the General Staff, Baron Konrad von Mangerheim, our ambassador to the Ottoman Empire, reports from Constantinople that the Ottoman army is not yet ready for war. The large sums of money will need to be spent on it to bring it up to acceptable standards. Improving the Ottoman army will cost 200 MPPs at 50 MPPs a turn for 4 turns. In return, the Ottomans will be able to provide Littmann von Sanders with logistical support necessary to take the field. Would you like to provide funds to improve the German army? On the eve of entering the war, the Ottoman government had run out of money with which to pay their men, and 2 large shipments of gold from Germany played an important role in enticing them to join the Central Powers. Saying yes to this is recommended, as doing so will swing the Ottoman Empire 15 to 20% towards Central Powers. In addition to this, it will lead to Littmann von Sanders deploying at Constantinople as an Ottoman HQ on the 1st of September, 1914. So we're going to say yes here. Pressed by increased German support. Chancellor Konrad von Holzendorf, the Polish Supreme National Committee are offering their services in our fight against the Russians, and Joseph Polizidi, I can't pronounce my, we're going to say Joseph. Joseph is proposing to raise a Polish legion for service in our army. Given the number of likely Polish volunteers, these volunteers would form a half-strength detachment which could deploy at Koncis in early September 1914. Would you like to approve the raising of a Polish unit at the cost of 30 MPPs a turn for 2 turns? Supreme National Committee was formed by Polish activists in Krakow in August 1916 to promote their interests within the empire, and Habsburg authorities agreed to form a Polish legion to fight for them under his command. It stated they started the war by trying to trigger an uprising in Polish Russia, but the attempt failed. His efforts then turned to raising his legion, and more than 10,000 men were recruited from the first months of the war. The Polish soldiers swore allegiance to Franz Joseph and formed part of the Austrian-Hungarian army, with this unit ultimately reaching a strength of more than 20,000 men. But allowing this unit to be raised, the Austrian-Hungarians helped stimulate Polish nationalism and demands for self-determination from the Poles and other nationalists within the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. Proposal threat to the war turned out to be much longer than expected. So in this case, we're gonna say yes. We want the troops. Ottomans welcome the arrival of Goman at Constantinople. French mobilization continues. So here comes some more French units, although apparently we can't see those. German mobilization continues, which we'll be able to see. Austrian-Hungarian mobilization continues, which will help shore up some of the weaknesses in our defensive positions. And here's the MPPs. So we're deploying von Hindenburg and improving the Ottoman army, forming the Polish Legion and assisting the refugees. So we're getting a little bit less MPP than we would. Although the Ottomans are now much more favorable of the war, so they're getting more MPPs. So I think in overall, we're probably still getting a decent amount. And now we see what the Allies are up to. So Lord Kitchener issues a call to arms. So that's the volunteer army in the UK mobilizing. Oh, did the Serbians not reinforce the 1-strength guy? If he doesn't reinforce, we're going to destroy him. Enemy contact. Okay, so destroyers are coming straight up to our front door. They hit my naval mines. This is a aggressive maneuver from the British Navy. I have not experienced this before. Although you can see the value of the naval mines there. It does do a decent job at protecting the port area. Well, if that cruiser is still there when it comes back around to our turn, we're about to have some national morale gain from sending a British ship to the bottom. Newly mobilized unit getting a pounding. Ow. Okay, that's a setback, but that's not undue setback. We can roll with that. And as you can see, the Russians just come out of the woodworks. French mobilization continues, so this is the end of their turn. Russian mobilization continues, so even more Russian troops are showing up. And here comes the German mobilization. Little bit more. The Entente naval units north of Scotland blockade imports to Germany, so they Entente naval units imports to Germany in the North Sea. Okay, so both blockade locations have some ships on them now. Japan declares war on the Central Powers, and there's some rain in the Alps. So one Austro-Hungarian corps destroyed. Otherwise, fairly minimal damage. And the naval blockade started up. And it's talking about the naval warfare, uncertain naval warfare. Kind of went over that in the last part a little bit. Let's continue to push our subs forward into blockading. So that will interdict Russian, Ukrainian, or Russian, or British-Russian shipments. So we know that there is a British ship on one of those tags, and one of them over here. Doesn't always get given away. Where? Okay. I don't have time to wait for this guy to walk the slow way, so we're going to operate him over. I may even do the same with the Marine. Yeah, I'll operate the Marine over. Okay, so we're going to follow up on this front. Recon first. And then we're going to do an artillery bombardment. Clear that one out of our way. 2v4 is tempting. I'm going to take the 2v4. That was 0 versus 3, although we did do decent. Okay, so you'd have enough movement to get there. We'll let you go there. 0 to 5, so we won't quite drive off the HQ there. So 2v5 and 2v4, we'll look at those. Destroying a French unit is always nice when you can do it without taking too many losses. Two v 3 against a unit we might otherwise be able to take out if we hit it hard, so let's try. Here we go. Another French unit destroyed. We're going to heal you in position. Do I risk there being a hidden French unit there? I'm going to go with no. Gonna hold off on operating another one over. We might send over that reserve unit. Recon-wise, shame we're out of recon range for the unit. I actually want to recon. Are we gonna attack that unit? No, a little too dug in. Take a risk moving there. Yes, they did not get around to repairing it, so we'll take the risk and take it from volume damage. Okay, we traded 1 for 1, but we destroyed the unit we traded 1 for 1 with. I'm gonna regenerate this recon bomber. And then grab the rest here. You can dig in. And then I think that will be the next place we attack on that front. Over here, we don't want the national morale objective falling, so we move over there, reinforce it. Dig in. You need to reinforce. Just gonna dig you in. Actually, no, we'll have you move around to there. Deny them taking that city for a moment. Readjust that front line. Although that's a 1v4. With a 1v, yeah, we're gonna take the kill here. Another kill on the Russians. want to, but we're going to get too beaten up if I do. So we're going to do a quick reinforcement here. This core here is mostly to delay them. At some point, we may actually pull it back. And then we will reinforce the recon bombers, because we're going to use the recon bomber. Well, we're going to leave the recon bombers there. They're a little bit vulnerable if they're not reinforced. Destroyed that light cruiser, giving us 450 national morale for blowing up a British warship. And we are gonna put a mine down. And pull back casually like that. So the minefield's regenerated. We're not too worried about them causing more problems again. That was fairly minor damage. We took 1 damage to 1 destroyer. I think them hitting the mine slowed that attack down. I think they decided to pull off after the fact. I'm going to pull this one back a bit, and then... Oh, we already attacked this guy, so we can't dig in. No, we'll leave him there then. We may pull back the next turn. We'll see how the Russians continue to act. Purchasing-wise, we can't afford to replace the lost core yet. And everything else looks reasonably good. Again, would like to take the infantry weapons. We don't have enough for it. Not going to rush to put a second one in trench warfare, which is the only thing I think I would spend on that we could afford at the moment as Austria-Hungary. Research-wise, as the Germans... What do I want? I think we want to start accelerating trench warfare and artillery weapon development. So, put some more in artillery weapon. I'm going to put 2 more in trench warfare. I don't think I'm going to spend anything for the Ottomans yet. Ideally with the Ottomans, and even a little degree with the Hungarians, we probably want to get more artillery with them. Although the Ottomans will probably want the artillery upgraded as well, which is fairly expensive. Okay, so we've done the Ottomans. Oh, we can put the sub on the sub line, on the raiding line here. Pull the destroyer back. Okay, I think that's enough nitpicking the defensive situation here. Overall, I think things are vaguely going our way. At least the way I want them to go. We were able to destroy that unit. This unit's a little exposed. Honestly, this unit's a little bit exposed. Although I don't necessarily expect the Serbians are going to be particularly counter-offensive, given the circumstances. We are eventually going to want to send them reinforcements. And eventually they're going to want to get artillery, because eventually the Serbians are going to try digging in, much to our chagrin as well. Yeah, I don't like that position. We'll move this guy over here. 1 to 4? Okay. 1 to 2 will take. So it's not destroyed, but with only 1 strength left, it's unlikely to be a big threat to any of the things that's in range of. And yeah, I may need to operate over more troops from the Western Front. We're getting pretty close to my desired goal. My desired goal is to link up. Basically, we're doing the race of the sea before doing the race to Paris. Let's get to the sea and then begin to delete these 2 hardpoint resistances. So Ypres, and Antwerp. Antwerp's going to be a little bit of a pain. It's going to be a little slog because it's a fortified town. Although it's only got an entrenchment of 3. It's not as bad as the major fortresses have done. Major fortresses are done. It's going to have to wait until we get heavy artillery. But yeah. So we basically want to get rid of Ypres. We want to get an organized front line, and then we want to delete Antwerp to surrender Belgium, and then other than leaving a few reserve corps for situations where the French are particularly bloody, we're going to pull most of the reserves off to form a cohesive battle line on the Russians, because the goal will probably be to get the Russians to surrender first. And then tech-wise, expenditure-wise, the Ottomans aren't in the war. We want to get enough MPP with them that we can probably get artillery going and get their first artillery researched. And then it's probably to the trenches with them as well. One thing I haven't been discussing very much is you do start with some stuff in production. As you can see, it's usually the boats that you wouldn't otherwise want to spend money on. So they kind of just give it to you. So we're expecting some more corps. We're going to get some corps where we get to pick where they go. We're going to get our first sort of reconnaissance blimp in October. So not very far out. The Austrian-Hungarians don't get as much, and, well, we do have a unit deploying for the Ottomans. So with that, let's go ahead and end the turn. I think we're in a good place for this turn to end. French mobilization continues. There's that Polish Legion we paid for. So there's Lehman von Sanders spawning in as an Ottoman general. So they're disrupting the Norway-German convoys, which is not great for us. Entente naval units north of Scotland are blockading the imports from Germany and North Sea. We did get a breakthrough on the command and control for the Ottomans. Okay, so they did interdict. They didn't interdict it hard enough to actually reduce it to 0, and they only reduced it by 5. So 345 MPPs for Germany, 208 for Austria-Hungary, and 93 for the Ottoman Empire. The Indian Army formation sails for Europe. Ferdinand Foch is provided field command. The Belgians reinforced their HQ. Interesting that they operated that guy away. we're gonna lose a core. It's holding. This is getting a little close for comfort. Are we gonna lose the oil field? I think... Did lose the unit on it. Do they occupy the oil field? Yes. Darn. So that's gonna be a problem. Lots of grain from the glacier. So this is the oil field being quiet. Leads to hunger in Austria-Hungary. So that's the 50%, 50 national morale hit. That's per turn. Russian national morale boosted by the capture of the fields. Russian mobilization continues. Central Power Raiders disrupt the France-Serbian convoys and the UK to Russia convoys. And they're blockading. So each of the Central Powers that are in the war lose a corps. And we disrupted some raids. So they lost 13 MPP. They lost 13 MPP, so that's good. Russian mobilization continues, so on and so forth. Okay. We got a sub to deploy. And that's it for the deployments. Okay, well, I need to do what I can, and that might not be very much, to take back the oil fields. Okay, we took the oil field. Okay, so we'll see if we can hold the oil fields. I don't have the highest of hopes for that. given that we lost it already once. Had higher hopes when we had than in previous runs, let's say. It's not actually expecting the recon bombers to really get a kill there, but they did some damage. And we got 2v4s here. I should take one of these. Okay, the situation is not as bleak and hopeless as I was worried about, although it is not very good. Are those worth taking? No, not really. This is mainly to put pressure on them, so make sure you dug in the right spot. Okay. And then we want you to reinforce. As weird as it might sound, if they really want to come for the HQ there, that won't be great, but I can live with that. Not going to come with enough force to kill it, which is the important part. Purchase-wise, we want to get the replacement core, at least one of the replacement cores coming. Okay. We'll go ahead and improve this one, in case we need to emergency deploy that one to plug the hole somewhere. Okay, so I think that is a reasonably stable east and south. Okay, that way we can interdict 2 lines for the price of 1. It's always nice when you can do that. We got mines in that field. Are they really that close? No. That's how close they are. That's way too close for them. And they're about to learn why that is way too close. For the cost of 1 damage on 1 dreadnought, we just sank a destroyer. Okay, there's another one up. Oh no, that's my sub. Fair enough. My sub is not going to interdict the supply line there. And we got a second one deploying. Gonna want to get over and start raiding these lines. I don't necessarily want to start unrestricted naval warfare yet. Although that's partially because we have yet to receive all the good news. So there's various good news that you get as the central powers that boost your national morale. Alright, so right now we're sitting at 103%. There really isn't much benefit in being over 110%. We'd like to keep the Austrians above 90. But the unrestricted naval warfare doesn't do anything to Austrians, it's only to Germans. So we're hoping some of the good news will make the Austrians a little bit happier. And then the Germans, we want to say, well, we don't need to unrestricted naval warfare, as long as we're above 100%, let's just say. Going up the line, we do have an exposed spot in the line that would be able to inflict some damage there, but I'm not sure we're going to want to do too much. 1 to 5 is probably worth taking, even if we're not going to follow it up with a kill. Oh, and we did lose a core as the Germans, so we're going to immediately just say we want that back. We lost in a place where we aren't out of supply, so we can get it replaced at discount. I know I at least want to go there. I might want to go the next step as well. Okay, so you can command the guys down the front there. That's fine for the moment. If I take any of these attacks, we'll be down at 6, which we don't want. We probably actually, if we want to keep this X, we want to dig in. We can dig in here. 2v4 is tempting, but I want the entrenchment bonus. We are dug in here. Okay, so I'm not going to be losing much by attacking, because the trenches are there. And we spent all the MPP for the Germans, so I should probably not be quite so combat aggressive for the moment on the Western Front, because we burnt through all the MPP real quick. Okay, so the Ottomans have now got 176 MPP. They're not going to necessarily recruit anything with them right away. I am going to want to grab at least 1 artillery piece with them, which is going to cost 300. And then we are going to want artillery weapons with them, which is what we're going to start researching right now. We'll pick up the first trench warfare as well. Oh, it costs them 60, not 50. So the Germans get a discount, they get it at 50. I think the Russians have to pay all the way up to 80. The Russians have to pay quite a bit for it. No, ideally we want to save it for infantry weapons, while we've got at least one invested in both of those. Although we will want to probably spend more on trench warfare at some point. Okay. So I think that's what's going on in the southeast. Serbian front is not quite going the way I want it, although it could definitely go worse. I think we're inflicting good damage on the Serbians. We retook the oil field, which is okay. I'd like it to be better. I'm worried about attacks from the north, attacks from the east. The north. Okay, so I think I've got it faced the right way for the trench line at the moment. And you, let's make sure that you're... No. Make sure that you've assigned to the guys we need. Some manual. I think they're assigned under control. Yeah. So yeah, things could be going a little bit better here. If things had gone really according to plan, we wouldn't have lost the Glacier Nova fields at all. But we managed to retake it. Assuming it holds, it having fallen for a turn is not a big issue. It's if we're unable to hold it, things become a problem. Okay, so I think this is where we're going to go ahead and cycle the turn, and then we'll probably end this part as soon as it comes back to our turn. Prince Wilhelm flees Albania as civil war breaks out. So Albania is preparing to join the Entente side. Entente naval units blockade imports to Germany. Yeah. Chief of Staff Helmut von Moltke resigns due to ill health. Erich von Falkenhayn replaces von Moltke as Chief of Staff. We're deploying von Hindenburg and improving the Ottoman army, which is costing us 100 MPP. Otherwise, we are getting 355 as the Germans. Austria-Hungary is being pretty happy at 220, and the Ottomans at 111. Okay, so we lost another town there. That's not the rail line, so that's not a concern. The sub is engaging, or being engaged by some cruisers. As long as no destroyers roll up, the sub will be safe. Early war cruisers don't actually have good anti-sub attacks. We don't have a spot in range for that unit to retreat into, so that one does run the risk of being destroyed. Good old Fortress City's holding up well. Okay, this is the level of attrition against the Russians that I think we can stomach. we're disrupting convoys. Okay, things are not going exactly the way we want, but things are going better than they could have. Could definitely have gone worse. We lost another town in Austria-Hungary, which I already brought up. We actually managed to do 16 and 17 MPP of effects on raiding due to disrupting Egypt-UK convoys and UK-Russian convoys. Apparently, the French did not even bother attempting to send supplies to Serbia this turn, so we didn't interrupt any of that. Entente naval units north of Scotland blockade import into Germany. Okay. And then we have a couple of reserve corps to deploy. And I don't think we need these guys in the west. I think we need these guys in the east. So the question is, where do I deploy them? That's tempting. Tempting, yeah. Let's go one up there, and the other one down here. And as I brought up, this is where I'm going to go ahead and put the part break in. I'm going to resist the urge to continue playing, because at some point I need to go to sleep tonight. We've recorded 2 parts tonight. Well, 2 not including the failed attempt to record the first part, the first time. Things are going worse than in my first successful playthrough of the Central Powers, but are still going reasonably well. The Ottoman flank hasn't opened up. The Ottoman's probably the one where things are going to go wrong. Things are going to go wrong. Austria-Hungary, again, losing the oil well was a setback. And that has definitely upset some of the defensive positioning around the oil well. We may be able to turn that around fairly easily. We'll see next time. We're almost done with my attack into Belgium. If things continue to go as well as they are, I suspect Belgium will fall. And with that, we'll be able to start contemplating how we're going to calcify the lines here in the west. After the fall of Belgium, it will be tempting to try to encircle Verdun. Not because we are planning on taking Verdun anytime soon. We almost certainly will not be able to until we get the Artillery 1 research. But because once we have Artillery 1, when we do want to take Verdun, we probably don't want it to immediately return to control of the Entente powers. Something I haven't brought up is a lot of the national morale objectives for the French. So ways you can damage the French national morale. The French, if they can retake them, will regain national morale. So you usually want to be able to take them and hold them. Right, so if we take Verdun, we want to hold Verdun. We don't want to give it back to the French. The one exception to this is Paris. You do so much damage with Paris that the French retaking Paris doesn't recover all of it. The other ones, they'll basically recover all their national morale damage if they retake it. So if you take them, you want to take them and hold them. You don't want to lose them. And then we want to finish off Belgium. It's kind of the thing on that front. We want to finish off Belgium. We want to calcine the line so that we don't lose any territory. Probably encircle Verdun. Serbia, we probably want to destroy what we can in Serbia. But eventually we just want to calcine the line in Serbia as well. So it's not eating MPP that we need to hold the Galatian territories. And then form an organized line here, and then kind of wait until we get Artillery 1 to start attacking it. Although we probably want more artillery. We're going to want more artillery guns. Everywhere. Everywhere we want artillery. We haven't heard any sort of hints that the Italians are going to join the war. We're going to have to fortify the Italian front. You'll notice there's a very lack of troops on the Italian front. We're going to have to fix that. And we need to keep them out of Galicia so that the Romanians don't come in, otherwise we're going to have the same problem with the Romanian front. So that's where we are for the run at this point. If you're watching on YouTube, there probably will be another part up for you by tomorrow. I see your last comment. I'm not sure if I responded to it, Team RB. No problem with you not being there to notice it. I noticed that things weren't popping up. I didn't end up figuring it up when we did the first war maps pop-up. So it wasn't that far into it on the first turn. Literally I realized that the pop-ups weren't showing up when we went to declare war on Belgium in the first recording attempt. But yeah, so this is where we're going to end the stream for tonight. If you're watching YouTube, there will be part up tomorrow. If you're watching on Twitch, we will be back to recording this in 10 days. The schedule plan right now is that tomorrow will be Shadow Empire. We're going to return to Shadow Empire and that map provided by one of the Redditors in the Reddit community. The day after that will be the continuation of Humankind. We will continue that run on Empire difficulty. Let's see if I can fight my way out of last in the fame standpoint. Primarily, probably by fighting, because even my subject technically has more fame than me. Friday will be the resumption of Xenonauts. I think I looked up how to set up more bases, so we'll probably try to set up some more bases early on. And hopefully try not to lose every sword rule that we hire. We got a little bit better as the stream went on. And then Saturday, as I said, will be the return to this. I might technically have the old Strategic Comman WWI, the classic version, as the tagged game for that stream, but it's this one, obviously. We'll be on Saturday. So that's the upcoming stream schedule. I hope everyone has been enjoying this stream. If you're watching on Twitch and you want to comment or respond to, now is a good time to let me know so I can try to respond to your comments. If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to also leave comments. I do try to respond to all the comments on YouTube that are at least vaguely in the form of a question. If it's just an affirmative or whatever explanation, and I don't really have anything to respond to, I sometimes won't respond. But I think I've responded to all but like one comment in the last like 3 or 4 months. So I do respond to the majority of comments. And if there's anything you want to see as far as the reports, feel free to let me know. I suppose before I end off here, I can do a quick pass on the national morale of all the nations, right? So the British are at 96%, the French are at 95%. The Italians haven't joined the war, so they're at 100%. The Serbians are in the war, and they're at 98%. The Russians are at 96%. America's not in. The Germans are at 102%. So there's a couple things you can do to get national morale buffs. For example, taking various places in Belgium. The Austro-Hungarians, due to how things are going in Galatia, are down a little bit in 95. I think that's actually losing the oil field. So we had the refugee event where you had to spend MPP to recover it, or if you don't spend it, you lose more. And then this is the oil field being lost and units being destroyed mostly. This guy's down 95%. When Bulgaria, I think when the Ottoman Empire joins, when Bulgaria joins, those are both national morale buffs, and the Ottomans are not in the war yet. So yeah, if you want to see any of these graphs, feel free to let me know. From a losses standpoint, I think the Central Powers here are still taking the minority of the losses. Austria-Hungary is up 2, and Germany's lost 1. So we've only lost 3 units, and that's a little bit off to a good start. We'll see if we can keep that sort of exchange ratio going. But yeah. With that, if you're watching on YouTube, there will be a part up tomorrow. If you're watching on Twitch, there will be another stream of this in 4 days, but I do stream every night, as I brought up the schedule. So with that, I'm going to wish you all the best of luck and a good time. Catch you all in the next part, and bye for now.